In Star Wars, there are countless ships thrown into battle, from single-pilot starfighters to massive starships that hold crews that reach the thousands. But leading the charge in many space battles were the capital ships. Some were decorated with colors and patterns signifying their role within a fleet, and others were custom-made as machines of war to stop a battle before it had ever taken place. So, in no particular order, we're going over the 10 most powerful capital ships in all of Star Wars. Home 1. An MC-80 starcruiser under the command of the famous Admiral Ackbar was the Home 1. At the time, this was one of the largest and most advanced Mon Calamari starships ever made, and the command vessel for the Rebel Alliance during the Battle of Endor. The Home 1 coordinated the Rebel fleet maneuvers across many different battlefields. Like many other Mon Calamari cruisers, the Home 1 prioritized survivability and shield strength, making it an incredibly durable command vessel. Home 1 would continue to participate in various encounters across the galaxy, including the Battle of Jakku. Here, the cruiser would again take on the role of the New Republic's fleet command ship, with Admiral Ackbar coordinating the battle with other New Republic commanders. Thanks to the Home 1, the tide of the Galactic Civil War would constantly shift to favor the Rebellion, leading to the end of the Galactic Empire and the finale to the Galactic Civil War. The Malevolence. The gargantuan Subjugator-class heavy cruiser known as the Malevolence was a prototype superweapon to be used by the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the Clone Wars. Under the command of General Grievous, this ship dwarfed standard warships, and was equipped with twin ion pulse cannons mounted along its massive hull. The blast of its ion cannons could disable entire fleets in one blast, rendering all power systems, including shields, weapons, and engines, useless. Once a fleet was paralyzed, the Malevolence's heavy turbo lasers would finish them off. Hundreds of heavy turbo lasers lined its frame, and it held dozens of droid starfighter wings and droid troops within its vast hangars and hallways. Despite it being slow to maneuver and holding an over-reliance on its ion cannon weapons, this hulking war machine was practically invincible in head-on engagements. The Malevolence was able to take on the unending turbo laser fire of several Venator-class Star Destroyers without active shields. Executor. The capital ship of Darth Vader, the Executor was one of the largest and most powerful warships in the Imperial Navy. Its sheer scale dwarfed even the conventional Imperial Star Destroyer. This beast carried over 5,000 turbo lasers and ion cannons along its hull. The 13 thrusters at the bottom end of the hull were responsible for moving the vessel. Considered the most important ship in the entire Imperial fleet, the Executor was so massive and well-armed it could have destroyed entire Rebel fleets unaided. The Executor served as the Imperial flagship during the battles of Hoth and Endor. Despite its massive power, however, this ginormous ship was destroyed when a Rebel A-Wing crashed into its command bridge, causing the massive ship to plummet into the second Death Star. Supremacy. Whereas most other ships on this list came from a line of mass-produced or similarly designed ships, the Supremacy was the only ship of its kind. The flagship for Supreme Leader Snoke was a flying fortress and mobile command hub for the entirety of the First Order. More wide than it was long, it took the shape of a vast wing spanning a grand total of 60 kilometers. Inside this immense machine, it held shipyards, factories, command centers, and hangars capable of both producing and deploying entire fleets. Supreme Leader Snoke used the Supremacy as his throne ship and his seat of power. Equipped with advanced tracking systems, the Supremacy was the lead ship in pursuit of the Resistance during the events of The Last Jedi. Whereas this ship was protected against almost everything due to its absolute size and advanced shielding, it could not protect against a massive Rebel ship traveling through hyperspace. The maneuver performed by Vice Admiral Holdo cleaved the ship in half, as well as destroying a good chunk of the First Order fleet that trailed behind it. Profundity. There's a good reason that this list contains multiple Mon Calamari capital ships. And this is not the last one you'll be hearing about. The MC-75 star cruiser known as the Profundity was the capital ship of the Rebel Alliance Admiral Raddus. The Profundity was the flagship of the Rebel fleet at Scarif, responsible for helping get the Death Star plans to Rebel High Command. However, it wasn't really the ship that was special, rather the commander at its helm. When Jyn Erso took command of a small band of rebels to go down to Scarif, Admiral Raddus heard of this development and prepared his own flagship to join her. This quickly prompted the rest of his fleet to be approved for deployment, with Blue Squadron reinforcing Rogue One on the ground and the starfighters engaging all other threats in the area. It was aboard the Profundity that the stolen Death Star plans were received before being transferred to Princess Leia's Tantive 4, which launched from the Profundity just seconds before Vader could board. Destroyed soon after by Darth Vader's forces, the Profundity's sacrifice made the rebellion's victory in A New Hope possible. The Negotiator. I'll give you one guess as to who you think commanded a ship called the Negotiator. The primary flagship to none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Clone Wars, this ship's name reflected his reputation as the Negotiator. Like other Venators, this was a carrier-destroyer hybrid with the ability to carry over 400 starfighters, as well as thousands of walkers and combat personnel. Capital Venators were signified with red-painted bridges to note their role within a fleet. The Negotiator participated in countless campaigns in the Clone Wars, including Christophsis, the Malevolence campaign, and more. Unfortunately, this ship was lost at the hands of General Grievous. Before Obi-Wan could provide assistance to a group of younglings on the planet Florum, the Negotiator came under attack by General Grievous in his capital ship, the Invisible Hand. Grievous boarded the ship, engaging in a battle with the clones inside. Kenobi dueled the general, but elected to retreat with the Republic personnel under his command. Ensuring not to let the Separatists capture the Negotiator or to gain access to its command systems, Kenobi and Marshal Commander Cody activated the vessel's self-destruct mechanism, which destroyed the capital ship. Raddus. Named after the Mon Cala who commanded the bridge of the Profundity, the Raddus was probably the most fortified ship in the Resistance fleet. Built decades after the Galactic Civil War, this massive MC-85 starcruiser was designed as a warship from the start, unlike other Mon Cala cruisers, which were actually retrofitted city ships. This was the Resistance flagship used during the war with the First Order, commanded by General Leia Organa herself. Much of the Resistance command structure was aboard the Raddus when they were pursued by Snoke and the First Order. Not many warships could survive an unyielding salvo of cannon fire from Snoke's capital ship, the Supremacy, but for hours the Raddus kept its shields up and thrusters burning despite the barrage. It was the Raddus that destroyed the Supremacy using the Holdo maneuver, but this ship was inevitably destroyed on impact. Chimera. Serving as the flagship of Grand Admiral Thrawn during his campaigns against the Rebel Alliance, the Chimera spearheaded his attempt to crush the rebellion on Lothal. In Legends, the Chimera became Thrawn's command ship during his campaigns 5 years after the Battle of Endor. It was from the Chimera that Thrawn nearly crushed the New Republic, remaining a central ship in the Imperial remnant long after his death, with later admirals such as Jalad Pellaeon commanding from it. In canon though, the Chimera was ultimately lost when Ezra Bridger summoned a pod of Purrgil, which latched onto the ship, dragging both it and Thrawn into hyperspace. One of the most recognizable parts of this ship was the two-headed serpent dragon known as a Chimera. It sprawled across the ventral hull of Thrawn's flagship, visible to all planetary citizens that it loomed above. The Chimera is recovered in the Ahsoka TV series with Thrawn aboard, although beaten and battered. We're sure to see its return soon in Season 2 of that show. The Resolute. Anakin Skywalker was the commander of several ships during his tenure in the Jedi Order, with many of them being destroyed by various means. However, none stood out more than the Resolute. Under Anakin Skywalker and Admiral Yularen, the Resolute was a highly active Venator-class Star Destroyer throughout the Clone Wars, often operating in joint missions with Obi-Wan's Negotiator. the Resolute participated in dozens of important galactic battles, including Christophsis, the Malevolence Campaign, the Battle of Bothawai, the Battle of Quell, the Battle of Ryloth, and more. This iconic ship was destroyed by Asajj Ventress at the Battle of Sullust. Ventress and her squadron of droid tri-fighters attacked the Resolute's twin bridges, simultaneously knocking out its controls, causing the rest of the ship to systematically explode. The Eclipse. The capital ship commanded by none other than Emperor Palpatine himself, the Eclipse was an Eclipse-class star dreadnought. This dark dagger-like dreadnought had an axial super laser mounted on its hull. Though not as powerful as even one of the component beams of the Death Star, the Eclipse super laser could still easily obliterate even a super star destroyer like Vader's flagship, Executor. The Eclipse carried 600 TIE interceptors and 96 TIE bombers, divided into 58 squadrons. Not enough. This vessel carried 150,000 Imperial soldiers, along with 100 AT-ATs and 5 prefabricated bases within. Still not enough, the ship boasted a crew of over 700,000 personnel. And just in case one wasn't enough, the Eclipse was just a prototype, used as Palpatine's flagship after he was reincarnated as a clone. An Eclipse-class II dreadnought was also produced, bolstering even more firepower than the Eclipse I. But that does it for our list. Were there any you think we missed? Let us know in the comments.